So you want to own a cell tower. You have driven past 1,000 of them. A steel pole on a concrete pad, a chain link fence, a couple of gray boxes at the base. Nobody works there, nobody visits. It just stands in a field getting rained on. And every month, some of the largest companies in the country send money to whoever owns it. That is the pitch. And on the surface, it is close to perfect. No staff, no customers to win, no product to ship. One structure, several tenants, contracts that run for decades. Here is what that pitch leaves out. You probably do not own the ground it stands on. You almost certainly cannot stop somebody else from buying that ground. And the one number that decides whether your tower is a gold mine or a liability, how many tenants sit on it, is controlled entirely by companies that are free to merge with each other whenever they like. So what does one cost to put up? What does each tenant actually pay? Why does the second tenant matter more than the first? And why did one of the biggest tower companies on Earth lose billions on the thing it built next to its towers? 3 ways in. They are wildly different businesses, and people mix them up constantly. Way 1. You build the steel. Here is a real number. From the company that owns more towers than anybody, American Tower's own investor material puts the construction cost of a new United States macro tower at $275,000. Independent operators in the field will tell you a basic build lands somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000, depending on height, soil, access, and how ugly the zoning fight gets. And that same American Tower material shows why this industry went global. A typical tower in Latin America runs between $85,000 and $170,000. In Africa, $60,000 to $120,000. In Asia, $20,000 to $30,000. Same asset, same business model, roughly 1/10 of the price. Way 2. You buy towers that already exist. Here is what that looked like when the industry was young. In the middle of 2000, one tower company disclosed agreements to acquire 147 existing towers across 38 separate transactions for a total of $56.4 million. Do that division. Around $384,000 a tower for structures already standing with tenants already on them. Today, the market is nothing like that. United States towers change hands at roughly 30 to 34 times their cash flow, and the listed tower companies themselves trade in a similar band. Sit with that multiple for a second, because it tells you what kind of asset this is. Nobody pays 30 times cash flow for a business they think might shrink. Way 3. And this is the one ordinary people can actually reach. You do not own the tower at all. You own the dirt underneath it. A specialist firm that has advised thousands of landowners reported that the average new tower lease proposal in their database over 2018 and 2019 came in at $1,050 a month. Across a standard 25-year lease, that adds up to something in the region of $459,000 to the landowner. You build nothing. You maintain nothing, you collect. But before you go looking at your backfield, one cold fact from that same firm. If you think your land is the right land, the odds are under 2.5% that you are correct. Carriers do not pick a property because the owner wants a tower. They pick from inside a search ring drawn by an engineer, and either you are in it or you are not. Now the split that decides everything, and every experienced operator in this business says the same sentence. Never build a tower without a committed tenant. There are 1-tenant towers all over America. There are 0-tenant towers too. Steel standing in a field, fully permitted, fully built, earning nothing. Because the number of tenants is not a detail. As you are about to see, it is the entire business. Buy a tower, and 5 things come with it. First, and this catches people every time, the ground lease. You own the steel, you rent the dirt. Almost every tower in America sits on land the tower company does not own, under a lease with escalators and an expiry date on it. Think about what that means. Your entire asset is bolted to a piece of property somebody else controls. When that lease comes up, you are negotiating from the weakest possible position, because your tower cannot move, and other people worked this out a long time ago. There is a whole industry of firms that go around buying the land underneath existing towers, specifically so they can own the landlord side of that negotiation, which is why the tower companies now spend real money buying the ground back. American Tower lists ground lease purchases as a standing category of discretionary capital, right alongside building new towers. They are not buying land to develop it. They are buying it so nobody else can stand on their neck. Second thing you inherit: zoning, and the fact that everybody wants coverage and nobody wants the pole. A monopole and its ground equipment can fit in a footprint of about 20 feet by 30. A lattice tower needs a bit more. A guide tower, with cables anchored out to the sides, can need anywhere from 1 acre to 20. But the physical space is the easy part. The hard part is a room full of neighbors objecting to a 100-foot pole in their sightline. Tower developers will tell you plainly that the real skill in this business is not construction. It is winning the zoning hearing. Third, setback and fall zone rules, which quietly decide whether your land qualifies at all. Fourth, the escalator, same as every other asset in this series. Rents step up on a contractual schedule, and over a 25-year lease, that clause compounds into serious money. And fifth, the document that matters most and gets discussed least: the master lease agreement with each carrier. That is the contract governing how the carrier's leases across your whole portfolio work, how they renew, how they get cancelled, what notice is required. When a carrier walks away from sites, they do not do it randomly. They do it on the schedule that document allows. Hold that thought, because it comes back and it does real damage. Now the money, and this is where the tower business gets elegant. Number 1, the anchor tenant, your first carrier on the pole. They usually negotiate the best rate, because without them, you would not have built it. Number 2, co-location, the second and third carriers who come along later and hang their equipment on steel that already exists. Number 3, amendments. When a carrier upgrades, swaps antennas, or adds a new frequency band to equipment already on your tower, that is a change to the lease, and it comes with more rent. You did not build anything. Somebody drove out, bolted on hardware, and your monthly check went up. Number 4, the escalators, running underneath all of it. Number 5, the land play, buying the ground under towers you do not own, and collecting from the tower company instead of the carrier. Now here is what those layers look like on one single tower, using American Tower's own published illustration of United States build economics. 1 tenant, annual tenant revenue, $20,000. Operating expenses, including ground rent, utilities, and monitoring, $12,000. Gross margin, $8,000. That is a 40% margin, and against a $275,000 build, a return on investment of 3%. 3%. On $250,000 of steel and concrete. Now add a second tenant. Revenue goes to $50,000. Operating expenses go to $13,000. Gross margin, $37,000. 74% margin. Return on investment, 13%. Add a third. Revenue, $80,000. Operating expenses, $14,000. Gross margin, $66,000, 83% margin. Return on investment, 24%. Read those 3 lines again, because there is something hiding in them. Look only at the operating expense column. 1 tenant, $12,000 a year. 2 tenants, $13,000. 3 tenants, $14,000. Now look at the revenue column. 20,000, 50,000, 80,000. So going from 1 tenant to 2 adds $30,000 of revenue and costs you $1,000. American Tower calls that the gross margin conversion rate, and it puts the figure at 97%. 97 cents of every incremental dollar drops straight to margin because the tower is already there, the ground rent is already paid, and the fence is already up. Listen to that again. The second tenant is almost pure profit. The third one is too. And now the part that explains the entire structure of this industry. A tower with 1 tenant returns 3%. 3% is a terrible return. No carrier on earth wants billions of dollars sitting in assets earning 3%. So the carriers did the obvious thing. They sold their towers to independent companies who could do the one thing a carrier cannot do, which is put a competitor's antennas on the same pole. That is the whole trick. The exact same steel is a bad asset for the company that needs it and an excellent asset for the company that rents it out. Nothing about the tower changed. Only the number of tenants did. So what does it cost to keep one standing? Almost nothing. And that is the point. Start with the build. $275,000 in the United States, one time. Then annual operating expenses of $12,000 to $14,000. And the American Tower breakdown tells you exactly what sits in there. ground rent, utilities, monitoring. Ground rent is the big one, which is why buying the dirt matters so much. Then maintenance, and here is where this asset separates itself from everything else in this series. In 2017, American Tower expected total maintenance capital spending of about $160 million, against revenue of $5.8 billion the year before. That is under 3%. Compare that to a toll road resurfacing itself, or a pipeline running inspection tools through hundreds of miles of steel. A tower is a pole. It does not wear out the way a road does. You see the result in the margin. American Tower's adjusted earnings margin has run above 60%. Add a few line items nobody mentions in the brochure. Aviation lighting and the compliance that goes with it. Structural analysis, every time a tenant wants to add equipment, because the loading changes. Insurance, access roads, fence repairs, backup power, and then one more, which is not a cost at all but belongs on this page, the multiple. Towers trade at roughly 30 to 34 times cash flow, which means every extra $1,000 of annual margin you create does not just pay you $1,000, it adds $30,000 or more to what the tower is worth. Adding one tenant does not improve your income statement. It repriced your entire asset. So this is an asset with a tiny cost base, an enormous valuation multiple, and one glaring vulnerability. Here it is. Your tenants can merge with each other, and there is not one thing you can do about it. Watch how this played out in public. In 2018, when a merger between two large United States carriers was announced, one tower company filed a disclosure spelling out its exposure. Those two carriers made up about 19% and about 14% of its site rental revenues. And then the number that mattered. On towers where both carriers already sat, each one contributed roughly 6% of consolidated site rental revenue. Think about what happens on those towers. 2 tenants, 2 rents, 1 pole. After a merger, that is one tenant paying 1 rent on the same pole. Your revenue on that site does not fall a little, it falls by half. That same filing noted an average of about 5 years of term remaining on one carrier's leases and about 7 on the others. So the damage was not immediate, it was scheduled. That merger closed in 2020, and then the churn arrived exactly the way the paperwork allowed. Over years, as leases hit their cancellation and non-renewal dates under those master lease agreements. American Tower told investors its United States churn would stay elevated through 2025 for precisely that reason. Now the second half of the trap, and this is the part almost nobody saw coming. Regulators approving that merger were not blind to the problem. The remedy assumed a 4th national carrier would emerge and build out a network which would have given tower owners their 4th tenant back. That build-out never happened at the scale promised. The company behind it stepped back, and the lease defaults landed in 2026. Analysts covering the sector put the earnings hit at roughly 42 cents a share for one tower company, and about 50 cents for another, and it is still going. Another regional carrier is now being absorbed by a national one, and the same churn cycle is starting over. So here is the trap, stated plainly. You own the steel. You never owned the customer list. 4 tenants became 3, and every single decision that made it happen was taken in a boardroom you were not invited to. Whoever worked out how to profit from all this did not start by owning anything. In 1989, in Boca Raton, Florida, a man named Bernstein started a business under his own name. He had come out of the telecom world, and he understood something most people did not, which was how a carrier chooses where to put a cell site. So he sold that knowledge. His firm did site acquisition, zoning, permitting, and construction management. Carriers hired him to go find the land, win the hearing, and get the steel in the ground. Good business, real skill, and a ceiling. Because when you build a tower for somebody else, you get paid once. One fee, one project, then you go find another one. Meanwhile, the carrier that owns the tower you just built collects rent on it every month for the next 25 years. He did that work for about 8 years. Then, in June 1997, his company bought 12 towers in upstate New York. 12. That is the whole beginning. By the middle of 2000, that same company had been involved in developing more than 14,000 antenna sites, had agreements out to buy another 147 towers, and was reporting an average initial monthly rent of $1,528 on newly signed tenant leases. It had gone public the previous June. Today, it is one of the largest tower owners in the world. Nothing about the work changed. He knew the same things on the day he bought those 12 towers as he did the day before. He just stopped selling the service and started owning the asset. Which brings us to a company that already owned the good asset and went looking for a better one. Crown Castle owns around 40,000 towers in the United States. By any measure, that is one of the finest collections of infrastructure in the country. Tower revenue was growing organically at 4.5% a year, year after year, quietly. Then it decided the future was somewhere else. Its bet was on small cells and fiber. Instead of one tall pole serving a wide area, thousands of small units on street furniture, fed by fiber, delivering dense capacity in cities. On paper, the next generation of the same idea. Crown Castle went in hard. Over the years, it invested more than $17 billion on a net basis into that fiber and small cell business. It did not work the way the model said. Deployments ran into permitting delays and higher costs. The company cut back small cell builds. In 2024, it reported a net loss of more than $3.9 billion, against positive income of about $1.5 billion the year before, driven by an impairment written against that fiber unit. Then came the decision. On the 17th of March, 2025, Crown Castle announced it was selling the whole fiber segment, the small cell business, to a private equity infrastructure fund for $4.25 billion. The long-haul fiber business to another operator for $4.25 billion. $8.5 billion in total. That deal closed on the 1st of May 2026 at about $8.4 billion net of adjustments. Now put the two numbers side by side. More than $17 billion in, roughly $8.4 billion out. And here is the sentence that matters. Throughout all of it, the towers were fine. Tower organic growth kept running around 4.5%. Nothing was wrong with the 40,000 poles. Crown Castle sold its future, cut its dividend, used the proceeds to pay down more than $7 billion of debt, and went back to being what it already was, a tower company. 5 habits, and every one of them comes straight out of what you just watched. Habit 1. Never put steel in the ground without a signed anchor tenant. A speculative tower is not an investment. It is a bet on an engineer's search ring. 0 tenant towers exist. Somebody paid for every one of them. Habit 2. Control the ground. Buy the land if you can. If you cannot, sign the longest ground lease anybody will give you, and put your own extension options in it. The tower cannot move. Whoever owns the dirt eventually owns the negotiation. Habit 3. Underwrite to 2 tenants, never 3. 1 tenant returns 3%. 2 returns 13. If your model only works at 3 tenants, you have built a business that needs a stranger to show up. Habit 4. Treat churn as certain, not as a risk. Carriers merge. It has happened repeatedly, and it is happening right now. Look at which of your tenants overlap on the same pole, because that is where the damage lands, and assume the merger comes. Habit 5. Remember what the multiple does. At 30 times cash flow, 1 extra tenant is worth far more in sale value than in rent. The survivors in this business are not optimizing monthly income. They are building towers that price well. Both years, honestly. Start with the good one. 3 tenants on your pole. Revenue around $80,000. Operating expenses around 14. Gross margin 83%. Escalators lift the rent every year with no work from you. Somebody adds a new antenna, files an amendment, and the rent goes up again. And behind all of that, a valuation multiple in the 30s. That is as good as infrastructure gets. There is a reason towers became real estate investment trusts and got bought by pension money. Now the bad year, and it is very specific. Your bad year is not a recession. People do not stop using their phones when the economy slows. Data traffic went up through every downturn of the last 20 years. Your bad year is churn. Lose 1 of 3 tenants, and revenue drops by roughly 1/3, while your operating cost barely moves. All of that comes out of margin. Go from 2 tenants to 1, and you are back at a 3% return on a $250,000 asset, and there is a scoreboard for that. American Tower has publicly described evaluating underperforming and untenanted sites in the United States and decommissioning around 300 towers as a result. Not sold, taken down. Its global average has sat around 1.9 tenants per tower. Not 3, under 2. So does it work? Yes, and it is one of the best cash flow assets in existence. If you reach 2 tenants, hold the ground beneath you, and survive the consolidation cycle. And no, it does not work if you build on hope, rent your dirt short, or bet a business on there being 4 carriers when there are 3. Bernstein spent 8 years building towers for other people before he noticed the obvious thing. The builder gets paid once, the owner gets paid monthly for 25 years. Crown Castle already owned 40,000 of them and went looking for something more exciting, and paid over $17 billion to learn that the boring thing was the good thing. And every tower owner in America discovered the same lesson at the same time when 2 carriers became 1. Not 1 bolt moved, not 1 pole leaned. The steel was identical the day after the merger, because the steel is not what you are selling. $275,000 buys the pole. Anybody can buy a pole. What you actually own is the fact that there is nowhere else to put one, and that scarcity was granted by a zoning board, not by you. Nobody pays you for the steel. They pay you because there is nowhere else to stand. Own the shortage, and the tower is just the receipt.